We've seen some of the guys who got caught on the show come up with some pretty stupid excuses, but I hope you're ready to feel the stupidity since I'm gonna go through the dumbest of the dumb. It's a race to the bottom as we delve into some really interesting minds. The first loser on our list is Edward Hollingsworth. Imagine this super big guy being weirdly playful as he walks up the driveway. Yeah, my instant reaction would be to lock all the doors, windows, and get out my trusty gun. And also barricade the doors with furniture for good measure, because he doesn't look like he's gonna stop. Well, our setup had the sense to at least lock the door.
The door.
So why'd you lock the door?
What'd I tell ya? Guys, I wouldn't want to be even in the same room as this guy. Like, I can smell him through my screen, and let me tell you, it's definitely not a good thing. Ugh, it's like if bologna and mold had a love child. Anyway, before the guy even entered the house, the cops rounded him up and arrested him. Now, you must be thinking, where's my boy Chris? Well, sadly, he was busy with something else, and they had to rush him before anything more could happen. Well, like all these sorts of dudes who have been on the show, he basically rushed out to the police station for interrogation. And right when he sat down, dude changed personalities like you or I'd change shirts, and this new persona sure loved excuses. What he came up with was simply unbelievable.
My best friend's mom is dying of cancer. That's not a real excuse for it, but
Yeah, you're damn right it's no excuse. Like, come on, man. Seriously, dude, if he said it was his own mom who wasn't well, maybe we'd have some sympathy. But lying about his best friend's mom? A step too far. I bet that poor lady was just fine at home, chilling, and now she's probably stressed because of this jerk's lame attempt to weasel out of trouble. Not cool, Edward. Not cool at all. But the gravity of the situation was quick to dawn on him. Like, he suddenly realized he messed up big time, and duh, you're right on the money, but it's a little too late for you to feel bad about it, you big old chunk. Maybe you could have felt bad before you got to the house, turned around, and took a long look in the mirror. A very big mirror at that. Here's some much needed wisdom, idiot. No matter what sort of messed up fantasies you got swimming around in that head of yours, bringing them out in real life is beyond disgusting. I mean, what was he thinking when he struck up a convo with a person like the setup? Dude sealed his fate as soon as he sent the first message, and he got exactly what he deserved. Sorry, no matter what happens to him, he's getting no sympathy from me. And the people in the comments literally took the words out of my mouth. One guy commented saying how fantasies become realities when you make the decision to get in the car and drive all the way to a place you really shouldn't be. What'd I tell you guys? This loser really thought the cops would just buy his stupid excuse, and don't even get me started on his fake crying. Just look at this.
again, fantasy takes over reality. I've never done really anything.
Dude should have just given up this sort of life and gone to acting school, since that's about the only thing he's done right up at this point. Dude's gunning for an Oscar to put up this sort of act, but sadly ain't no rewards to be found here. Well, unless you count the cuffs on him as an award. I know I sure do. But this next comment I came across was all I needed for validation, honestly. That whole "my best friend's mom is dying of cancer" bit is cringier than everything else combined. You can hear it in his voice, man. He's been rehearsing that line in his head the entire way to the police station. Well, let's leave everybody's favorite Oscar nominee behind. Who's ready for excuse number 2? Well, our next weirdo for today is Christopher Urban. Absolute audacity of this guy. As soon as he entered the house, this absolute monster felt so at home that he straight up went ahead and started washing his hands and stuff. Like, no hesitation at all. Makes you wonder how many frickin' times he's done this before to be so calm and composed, especially at some random stranger's house. Also, especially a place with someone like the setup around. Thankfully, this time things were about to play out differently than he expected.
Paper towels right over here. So I grab a paper towel.
That's classic Chris for ya. I mean, there's just something about his entrance. You can't explain what, but whatever it was, he nailed it. Imagine being at a house to meet this chick and this man who you think could be your dad, and he shows up and hands you a paper towel. That's gotta be emasculating as hell. Dude's life probably flashed before his eyes too. I mean, why else do you think he took forever to wipe his hands? He went on and on and on, and Hanson finally lost his patience and asked him this.
Chris. And who did you come to see?
Yeah, he had to start somewhere. If not, this prick would have probably rubbed his hands clean down to the bone. When he finally answered,
Way too young for you. Yeah. Then why did you come here?
no shit, Sherlock. I mean, wow. Picture perfect gentleman over here, you guys. Dude wanted Hanson to believe that he came all this way just to remind the setup that he was too old for her. Sure. Talk about meaning that could have been an email. Would have saved him some gas, some time, effort, and, oh yeah, jail time as well. But hey, that's the beginning of his stupidity. That's because when Chris asked him to take the skins out of his pocket, which, let me remind you, he denied having in the first place, dude had something else planned out.
I brought this, but this is really watered down. You can even test it. That's way watered down.
Way watered down.
Way watered down.
What is it?
You can see how hard he was trying to sell what he was doing. He had all the grace of a used car salesman, but good effort, buddy. Obviously, Chris wasn't convinced, which is why he came up with his next excuse. And trust me, I haven't seen anything like it on the show before.
Hey, look at me, I didn't even take a shower. If I was coming to do something like that, I would have taken a shower, you know? I mean, that's the first thing you do.
Yeah, he actually said that. Now, I have no idea if he was telling the truth or not, but that was one hell of a way to convince Chris. And trust me, listening to this, a ton of fans of the show had the laugh of their lives. Look at me! I'm so dirty. Lamau. I agree on that one. Chris was so amused that he actually had to ask how old he was after listening to that ridiculous excuse. And just like you expected, Christopher went on and 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 on. He desperately tried every trick of the trade to clear his name.
I did because I didn't want to hurt somebody's feelings. I didn't want somebody to be absolutely hurt, okay? And sit there and go, oh my gosh, you didn't show up.
So suddenly you're worried about someone else's feelings now, huh? Well, I'd say better late than never, but we both know it's far too late. Come on, Chris, we know you're shitting bricks, so why don't you own up and get done with it instead of making a mess of yourself? However, Christopher continued to rant and explain how he was someone who believed in conscience and would never do something crazy with the setup. Anyway, by the time Chris realized that our man of the hour would never snap out of his denial, he decided to finally reveal his true identity to him. And with that, the cameras popped out and Christopher had nowhere left to run.
Welcome to leave and take your stuff with you. But if there's anything else you'd like to say, please.
He desperately tried to cover his face, but again, too little, too late. In hindsight, just like this viewer right here, I also think Christopher displayed every stage of excuses, defensiveness, guilt, and finally pleading his case. Fun to watch, but again, it's not gonna get the guy anywhere. Bye-bye, Christopher. You give all the other Chris's of the world a bad name. I bet our Chris wasn't too pleased having to deal with a namesake like this guy. But we've only scratched the surface of the depths of stupidity we're going to be delving into. This next guy's a prime example since he couldn't come up with anything else but this.
You know that the house is for sale?
Oh, that this house is for sale?
Yes.
Yeah. When nothing else is selling, what better than to put the Sting house on sale? I'm sure Chris never saw that coming, and he was so surprised that he had to ask him this.
What made you thought that this house is for sale?
I heard about it.
There he goes again. So this guy, Aladdin Shimon, had the audacity to blame some friend of his who led him to believe that this house was on sale. Like, yeah right, completely believable. Do you see any realtors around here? No. But hey, Chris wasn't backing down. Wanted to get to the bottom of it and test Aladdin's creativity. However, every single explanation that Aladdin gave landed him in deeper and deeper trouble.
Yes.
And what's the friend's name?
His name is Hisham.
And what's his phone number?
Surprisingly, Aladdin did manage to come up with a phone number, and it was pulled out of his ass, sure, but gotta hand it to the guy. What did Chris do? Dialed it up right in front of the dude. I'm sure this prick never saw that coming.
Hopefully.
Okay, well that first one is Cynthia, it's not Hisham.
Okay.
So let's try the other one.
You could feel Aladdin's tension a mile away. The man was sweating bullets knowing his big fat lie was about to be busted. And I have no idea whose number he actually gave out, but to add insult to injury, nobody answered the call. Going by the look on his face, it seems that he knew he was dead to rights from the second Chris pulled out his phone. But with that sorry display out of the way, Chris wanted some real answers.
And what do you think of the house?
What did you say?
What do you think of the house?
Very nice.
Yeah.
And how many bedroom? 4?
By this time, Chris realized that Aladdin could go on forever with this little act, and so he decided to ask him one more time.
I think now is the time for you to tell the truth. Why did you really come here?
To see, what's her name? Sarah.
Sarah.
Yes.
And then came the truth. See, it only took that much to get it out of him. And just when you thought he'd cooperate, Aladdin blew everyone away with yet another award-winning performance.
You say great, good girl.
A little bit.
Ah, the drama. Dude's taking a page out of the sitcom playbook, I see. Bold strategy, too. I mean, how else do you think he came up with the idea of pulling this sort of stunt? How convenient, ain't it? Just pass out. Dudes cracked the code. Call off the cops, you guys. Aladdin's won. He can't go on no more. But seriously, his fake faint was so terrible that I couldn't help but cringe. I'm honestly disappointed in him for not coming up with a better escape plan. Like, dude could have some decency and at least try to make a run for it. Anyway, they gave him some water and surprise, surprise, he was miraculously all better. But Chris kept drilling him with questions without skipping a beat, like a bloodhound following a trail. But Aladdin, well, he really thought he'd pull off a master escape. But oh, how wrong he was. Chris ain't letting him off the hook that easy. And you won't believe it, this loser pulled the same stunt again. Like, you can't make this stuff up, you guys. But guess what? Chris didn't even blink and kept firing away with questions. Ah, what a character this guy was. Dude can't be real.
It's just...
Yeah, it looks like Aladdin was hit with some kind of fast onset narcolepsy that kept sending him into these fainting spells. And what was Chris up to while this was going? Well, his reaction was priceless. He was so unbothered by the drama unfolding before his eyes and was like, come on, man, get it out. And really, can you blame him? Aladdin's bizarre acting was comical, like he could have performed with the best slapstick actors around. Like, get this guy and Charlie Chaplin in a room together, seriously. He kept up that little activist till the bitter end, but guess what? Everyone could see through his BS. And oh, the internet had a blast with this one. People love seeing these dudes floundering around to try and get out of trouble as it is, but this guy was next level. Whether it worked in his favor or not, he had fans of the show laughing right away. One of my fave dumbass excuses predators. Thank you for giving me a laugh at the end of a long day at work. Some viewers also enjoyed how Aladdin really stalled the whole sting, expecting some genie to appear out of nowhere and rescue him. But hey, he wasn't entirely wrong, because there indeed was a bunch of genies waiting for him right outside the door. And that realization must have hit him real hard. Unlike this next guy who had a hard-on like no other. You see, Chuck Harding, and no, I'm not making the last name of his up, found himself in the wrong place at the wrong time.
We'll check around here, okay?
Hey, how are you?
Okay.
Why don't you have a seat right around that stool there?
And hey, looks like Aladdin wasn't the only one interested in real estate.
Possibly selling the house or something.
Selling the house.
Yeah, I have a...
Problem here was that Chuck couldn't make up his mind. His story got so twisted in so many ways that I don't even think he could even remember where he began. Somebody get this guy working at one of those mall pretzel stands. He'd fit right in. Now, I don't blame his age for the lapse in memory, because Chuck was in his prime when it came to some of the disgusting things he was into. And while he sat there spinning lies over lies, Chris threw as an absolute disaster of a cover story in the trash right from the beginning. Now, help me understand this. Why would anyone want to go into an online chat room, which was meant for a specific purpose that definitely wasn't selling houses, to sell his house? I mean, they got Realtor.com for that, right? Well, let's not be too hard on Hard Chuck, and yeah, that was one of his many screen names, can't say I'm surprised, because the dude was so engrossed in his explicit conversations that he didn't even realize what kind of real estate he was looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
sure.
how much are you selling it for?
$25,000.
$25,000. That's quite the bargain.
I know, right? Props for sticking to your guns, Chuck, but like, come on. Chris, on the other hand, waited and watched on. He only wanted to see how far Chucky Boy would spin his web of lies before he cracked and came clean. However, Chuck showed no signs of stopping, and that's when Chris decided to take charge.
The only problem with that story is that I have the transcripts of your conversation with Luke.
Despite Chris showing him enough evidence to get him convicted 6 ways to Sunday, Chuck couldn't stop himself from giving more and more ridiculous excuses.
Well, I have another person that uses my computer.
Another person.
Right.
Come on, Grandpa, seriously? I mean, you can't even keep track of all the lies here. Or just cut the shit and come clean. But Chuck was in no mood to confess. However, he did share what he did for a living.
What do you do for a living, Chuck?
I'm retired now.
You're retired.
Although he was retired, the man was anything but tired. You see, Chuck was pretty busy throughout his life. He worked as a travel agent for 13 years, flew high with Frontier Airlines for nearly 2 decades, drove buses for the elderly and handicapped for 5 years, tried his luck teaching freshmen in high school, did a stint with the Catholic Church for 2.5 years, and even served in the Air Force for 4 years. Oh, dude definitely had a wide portfolio, I'll tell you that much. But man, I feel so sorry for this grandpa, honestly. At an age where he should be enjoying his retirement with grandkids, here he was trying to get into the pants of people around the same age as his grandkids. And guess what? After 3 little follow-up questions from Chris, the truth finally came out. Well, we were almost there, but not quite. It was like pulling teeth to get to the real story from this guy, I swear. But leave it to the GOAT to finally get the job done.
Well, he was in the chat room, so...
Stupid excuse, but he at least accepted it was him who was chatting. While Chuck tried his best to deflect, this next guy had the curiosity of a cat. And I mean, you know what they say about that. And why do I say that? Well, check this out.
It's a girl.
I don't know how old, that's why I'm here. I'm just...
This big loser. Just trying to play it cool, saying he was curious about the person he was gonna meet. Yeah, right, like we're gonna buy that excuse. I mean, seriously, I don't think he could have come up with a more ridiculous story. But wait, gets even juicier. He had the guts to not even deny that he was having these filthy convos with random folks online. Though, unfortunately for us, his Playboy days wouldn't last for much longer. He was gonna get caught sooner or later, and man, that is a piece of work that he was. However, Chris ended up nailing him. When he confronted him, the guy couldn't come up with squat. Not surprising at all, really. And get this, his lame response did the work spilling the beans for him, and now Chris got all the dirt he needed to send that fool straight to prison. Good riddance, buddy.
Well, yeah, you're absolutely...
Right? I mean, why take the chance?
Yeah, exactly. Why take the chance, am I right? You have so much free time in your life and you just want to see how your luck plays out? What? Well, it looks like his luck ran out. Might be the first, but out of all the losers we've seen on the show, Dan might be the first one who wanted to apologize. You'd go, okay, you know what, maybe this is all just a misunderstanding. But what he said right after that changed my whole opinion about him. It's just sad to think that he thought he had it in the bag until this very next moment when he threatened the camera crew.
Well, you better. I'll shove that camera down his
I
throat.
don't think you're gonna want to do that.
Why is that?
The absolute state of this loser. Who does he think he is talking like that, especially where he's at? Honestly, that's the exact reason why he deserved to be in prison for far longer. People on the internet were going absolute ham on this guy. Take a look at these comments. I'd like to say that pretty much I think you have it all wrong, but your point's well taken. This is the perfect example of a guy who should have just said nothing at all. Chris surely lost about 10 IQ points purely from being within this schmuck's radius. Honestly, I think I'm starting to lose some IQ at this point. That's why I'm here. I'm just curious. The way he delivers that line is so perfect. It's not the funniest part, but it's absolutely the thing that keeps me coming back here. You see, he was just curious, guys. Nothing else. Definitely nothing else to see here, folks. Move along. But he for sure will shove a camera down your throat if you even ask him anything else. Now, we got one last absolutely idiotic escapade coming our way. Rob Klein might not seem that old, but he was definitely a beast online, no doubt. Things he said on the internet were so disgusting that I'm not going to be able to repeat them here. I'm sure that gives you all the context you'll need. But back to the episode, where this loser's dream of getting right to business was shattered when Chris came out and asked him why it was there. And you know what he said? Well, it's really not that complicated, actually. He just came over to inform the setup that, well, he wasn't gonna come over. Yeah, I know, I'm as stunned and silent as the rest of you. I'm not making this up, you guys. This was actually his excuse. Don't believe me? Roll the clip.
I was actually just gonna stop by here to let her know that I wasn't gonna be here because I have to go meet with other people.
Told ya. Think about it. He drove all the way here just to say that he had other plans with his friends. And here I thought Christopher Urban was the king of meetings that could have been an email. But Rob Klein's got him beat by a mile. And this viewer had pretty much the same idea. Not just that, as soon as the cameras came out, this loser actually held his hand out for a handshake. Like, nothing actually happened, but talk about being delusional as hell. What's more, the exchange Chris had with him as he was leaving the house honestly gave me a headache.
I can see why it's hard to believe. I can see myself why it's hard to believe.
So why should I believe you?
Ugh, that smirk on his face. I'd like to punch it off of him and wipe it off him. But this loser's story doesn't even end there. Back at one of the station's interrogation rooms, the cops asked him if he had ever shared any explicit videos from his laptop. And you know what he said? Not as far as I know. But in the event that the officers do find something, they should keep something in mind. Maybe it was his brother who did it. Yeah, why not? Just push everyone under the bus on your way to hell, why don't ya? This dude's definitely in the running for the Brother of the Year award. But seriously, what he had to say here kind of triggered siblings from all around the world. Imagine finding out your brother got arrested for this and then trying to blame it on you. The amount of excuses these losers can come up with on the spot is honestly kind of shocking. Thankfully, none of them are ever any good at it. But there's more where this came from. If you can think of any other ridiculous excuses I left out, don't forget to drop them in the comments below. And before you head out, if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on my post notifications. Also, if you want to see something even crazier, check out my latest video right here. See you all next time.